everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amelia Ann and I post new life and style videos every Wednesday at 4 p.m. So for today's video, I'm just going to be talking about my acne journey. Now, obviously from this camera angle with makeup on, it doesn't really look like that I have acne or struggle with acne. Maybe you can see some of the scarring I just currently have, but otherwise my skin looks pretty clear. That has not always been the case, and unfortunately it has like flared up later in my life versus when I was a teenager, which is when most people think that it occurred. So I'm currently 26 years old, which is kind of too old to be dealing with acne, but here we are. So I went through puberty like early in life, I guess you would say. It started in 6th grade. And I would say, through most of middle school and high school, my skin was fine. In high school, I started to have a few breakouts, but they were just like the occasional zit here and there. My mom bought me Proactive and that seemed to work. And then it kind of like stopped working, as kind of most of those treatments do, where your skin just like gets used to it or whatever. So then I was just kind of like washing my face with a benzoyl peroxide cleanser and doing like spot treatments. Some was like the old toothpaste on the zit treatment, and others were like acne specific, but it was never terrible. So then I go off to college and I start to just have these like white zits kind of along my jawline. That was also the time where I like converted any dairy that I was having to soy. It was 2012, so it was like, I feel like the start of that movement where people were becoming more conscious of that dairy can affect you more than just like being like completely lactose intolerant, but you can have a lactose sensitivity. Turns out I have like a soy allergy, sensitivity, whatever you want to call it. It's too much like estrogen in my system because of just the makeup of soy. It's like estrogen based. I can like put a thing here that explains it a lot better than I can. And it just, I started to have these breakouts. Okay, what is different? I cut that out and turned to almond-based products, and I still use that to this day. So that was like my first inkling that I kind of had like a sensitivity to things. So I cut that out and my skin cleared up. I then went on to birth control I was just feeling like very irritable. My period was still not regular at that point. Your gynecologist just suggests you go on birth control. For me, that was a terrible experience. I can make a whole video on that. I did not like the pill. I was probably on it for a little less than a year. And then I would say that was kind of the first moment where I started to notice my skin just going crazy. My junior year, maybe late sophomore, early junior year, I was having severe breakouts just all along like my jawline, and to this day this is still where it's concentrated, and some on my forehead. And some of them were zits, others were, those like pus filled ones, which I can't even like think about. I hate it. And others were like that very deep cystic acne that hurts. And I was like, what is happening? I'm like, how old are you? Like 21 at this point. Now looking back, I'm like, I was so young then, but I was like, I'm not a teenager anymore. Like, what is happening? So I went to the dermatologist and she put me on a regimen of the Cetaphil wash, which is just a very gentle cleanser. And then in the morning, I was on a clindamycin benzoyl peroxide mix, and like I had to mix these like 2 ingredients together to get it. And then at night I was on something like Retin-A, but just generic. And as most acne medications, like true medications that you need a prescription for, it got a lot worse before it got better. And even that wasn't the worst, but I thought it was. Probably 4 to 5 months after starting that, my skin started to clear up. And kind of for the rest of that time, I had pretty much clear skin. Around my period, I'd get maybe the breakout or two, but for the most part, my skin was clear. I wasn't dealing with any of that, and it was great. I just kept up with that regimen and everything was good. And I moved out of my mom's house and to Philadelphia, and I had run out of my acne medication. So at this point, I'm 23, I believe, and I think I'm 23, my skin's clear, I don't need any more, I don't need to go to a dermatologist. Maybe within 2-3 months of making that very dumb decision, my skin started to break out, and it was horrendous and terrible. And it started slowly, like I would have just a few here and there, and that kind of kept up, and I was like, okay, like whatever. And I was using Mario Badescu, that like pink dip, I don't know what it's called, but it was like the rage. So I was using like the Mario Badescu products, and we just dotted, and it worked for the few sets I had. More time went by, and I was like, wow, I'm really having to dot my whole face. And I was like, okay, this is like getting more. Maybe I'm just stressed, I'm in a new environment, and moving to Philadelphia was like the biggest emotional process I've like ever had to go through. It was really hard. So I was like, maybe it's just the stress, and I didn't come to Philadelphia with a job, so I was also like searching for a job and the stress of that, and I finally got a job, but it wasn't necessarily like the job I wanted. So I just like thought it was the stress, didn't really calm down, and then it just felt like one day I woke up and my skin was atrocious. Like, I have no other way to explain it. I know you shouldn't talk about yourself like this, but it really went from like kind of a few to a whole entire breakout, and it was just, what is going on? I really tried to like clean up my diet as much as I could. I tried to not be stressed, but wasn't working. Finally, after maybe like 2-3 months of like living with that, I was like, let me go see a dermatologist. So I went to see a dermatologist, and I was like, hey, look at my skin, what is going on? And he asked me some questions, like if I'm on birth control or not, if I have like any allergies or anything like that. And then just like examining my skin, he's like, this just kind of looks like teenage acne. And I'm like, well, if you look at the chart, it says I'm 24, so I'm not a teenager anymore, so like I don't know what you mean. And he's like, no, like that's just the term for like this type of flare up. He's like, you either get it when you're actually a teenager or now as like in your mid to late 20s. And I was like, that is so fun. So he prescribed that I use a benzoyl peroxide wash, the clindamycin again, and then he put me on another Retin-A. And it dried my skin out. Again, it was a version of, kind of got worse before it had to get better, and this time the peeling was insane. I mean, I could like peel like chunks of my skin off. I then went for a 3-month checkup, and it still wasn't like at 100%. I would say it was like 60% better. So he put the like dosage of the Retin-A to a higher dosage, and it was working. It had cleared it up more, but my skin was just still peeling and red and raw. It hurt. I would come out of the shower and I would just have these like red splotches. Again, I go another 3 months, and it still wasn't completely clear. And I said, but it hurt. So he jacked it up again to maybe like 5, but took me off of the benzoyl peroxide wash and said to wash with Cetaphil at night and then like this sulfur wash in the morning, which I had used a sulfur cream like back in the early college days that kind of worked. I think it also set off a few like alarms at some airports because I would get pulled out of line and they would tell me I have gunshot residue on my hands and like I hadn't touched a gun, I hadn't been near a gun, and we think it was the sulfur. So I was using that. He said that, you know, sulfur smells like rotten eggs, so that's what your face would smell like, but this one was supposed to smell good. Well, it didn't, and all I could smell all day was just like rotten egg smell, and I was like, it's not even working, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. I see no difference over a 3-month period, so I stopped using that. And I finally went back probably in January, so this past January, like before all this pandemic stuff, and I said like, look, like I cannot go any higher with the prescription because my skin is going to fall off. Even over this time period that I've had to adjust, I still, you know, when I do get a breakout, it dries it out really quickly, but it creates scabs, which you can, I see literally, you see this like really cute zit I have right here, but I do have a lot of scarring. The scarring's me because I pick, because I have zero self-control, and I think a bleeding wound on your face looks better than like if you just like leave it alone and cover it with some concealer. So he said, okay, like that's fine. And I've just been, for now, I have been using the clindamycin, or the benzoyl peroxide wash in the morning with the clindamycin cream in the morning, and then at night I like use an oil to remove my makeup. I then wash my face with Cetaphil. Sometimes I use like my Foreo, and then I will put my Retin-A cream on. I only do, depending on how badly broken out my skin is or like how badly it's drying out, I might do every day, I might do every other day. Maybe the back and forth and not having a consistent schedule also adds to it. But for right now, I'm pretty satisfied, I guess you could say, looking back from where I came from. You know, this is a world of difference. It's still not 100%, as, you know, I even asked him like, hey, like, do you think by the time I'm 30, like, this will kind of go away and I won't have to use anything on my skin? It'll just be like, wake up in the morning and I just have fresh, glowy skin and nothing. And he's like, I can't tell you that. Like, you might have to do this for the rest of your life, which is just, it's crazy to think like this issue that we think about is like strictly for teenagers can actually really affect you like throughout your whole life, because it's just your chemical makeup. This is just my story and what's worked for me. Again, it's not 100%. I'm not sure I will ever get to 100%. I definitely get frustrated because it's just like, why am I dealing with this? But obviously it's so much better from the pictures that I've been putting up here. And I don't know, just because you have acne doesn't like make you ugly. It's just, it's really something that like you can't help most of the time. Sure, I'm sure there are those people who like had a few pimples here and there, they started washing their face twice a day and it like went away, but that is certainly not the case for a lot of people. So I just wanted to like share, just in case there's someone else out there who is my age, around my age, who's dealing with it. I know that going to the dermatologist can be expensive, but there are some times where like just using holistic products like doesn't always help 100%. Everybody's skin is different and everybody's skin is like so particular. So that's why like these are the products that I use that have been prescribed to me, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. So I hope that maybe somebody found this helpful, or maybe you have some helpful tips and tricks that you can leave in the comments below so we can all just help each other. I'd also like to say, I think I might have said it before, just because you have acne like doesn't mean you're ugly. Like it should not impact your self-worth at all, because your self-worth is like so much more than just like your physical appearance. And unfortunately, just like acne happens, and sometimes there's like a medical reason for it, and sometimes you're just 24 and you get diagnosed with teenage acne, and that's just the way life is. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and please remember to wear your mask, especially if you're watching me in the United States. Okay, bye.